Hey guys, welcome back to the Guitar Slinger Hockey Channel. I have a gear video for you today where I'm going to give you top 5 ways that you can improve the fit and the performance of your equipment for little to no money. And so this one kind of came to my mind because, like normal, I spent a lot of time working with adult rec players and teams, and I hear comments coming out of those players on the team, and it always gives me the ideas like, oh yeah, I kind of forget a lot of these players have started when they were adults. They may not know some of these tricks and tips that maybe some other folks know. And again, I had to learn all this stuff too when I was getting into the sport as well. Just kind of figured it out over time, talking to people and learning and things like that. So in the video today, I'm going to give you I'm going to show you a little trick on how to fix the blade feel if you don't like the blade feel of your current stick. And it doesn't matter what stick it is. You'll see that I'll be using a pretty crappy, ABS street hockey stick just to kind of demonstrate. And this is mostly for the purposes of if you want to make your blade a little bit more dampened feeling. So I know a lot of people have complaints about Warrior sticks, about CCM sticks maybe being a little bit too pingy or the puck bounces off their blade. That used to be a notorious problem with like Super Tax sticks, for example. I'll give you a little tip on how to fix that issue. I learned it when I transitioned from using wood sticks in college to using my first composite stick. And it helped me a little bit kind of ease that transition. So I'll go over that. That's number one. The next one, number two, will be basically how to, the reasons why you want to wear your shin pads and your hockey socks a certain way. So for example, some folks wear their shin pads under their tongue. Some people wear their shin pads over the tongue. And then there's different ways to wear your socks as well. And those actually do something. And then I'm going to talk about what specifically those can do. And no like specific one is better than the other type of situation will be subjective, obviously. But you might not know that the way you wear your shin pads and the way you wear your hockey socks can actually make a difference in your performance and your comfort. And in addition to that, I will show you 2 different lacing patterns for your skates that you may not be aware of, and I'll explain what specifically those do and what benefits you can get from that. And then the next one, I will talk about the skate insoles and compression socks and how those are part of a system with your foot and your skates and all that stuff that makes a difference on not only your comfort and not only your performance, but also how the boot fits in general too. So there's some tweaking that can be done with that. And then the last thing I'm going to teach you guys is about how to adjust your cage. For those of you who are wearing a full cage, if maybe you're having some issues with visibility, there's a little trick that we can do to kind of fix that problem, hopefully. So I'll go over that. And so those are the top 5 things that we can do to maybe make our stuff fit a little bit better, and so we can enjoy the game. So with that said, let's get into it. Okay, the first thing I'm going to talk about is changing the feel of your stick blade. And what I should note right up front is that these top 5 are not necessarily in order. They're just kind of the way I wrote them down. So, grain of salt that one. But anyway, starting off, to change the feel of your stick blade, I will note that there's no way to make your stick feel pingier, or bouncier. I don't really know any other term for it. That trampoline effect that you get on some blades of some manufacturers. So really, we either keep the stick blade feeling the way it came from the store, or we are going to try and make the blade feel more dampened so that the puck sticks to your blade better. So in this case, what we're doing is we're going to be dampening the blade of a cheapo stick. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to start off by taking cloth stick tape, and we're just going to cut 2 strips that are about the length of the blade from heel to toe. Then we're going to take our first strip of tape and we're going to put it on the forehand side of the blade, and you can see that I'm not worrying too much about how close to the heel and how close to the toe I'm putting the tape. The only thing that I choose not to do is I don't wrap the tape around the bottom of the blade, and this is just an old habit of mine because I used to play street hockey and roller hockey with this particular stick. And when you're stick handling, the blade just glides better on the surface when you keep the tape not wrapped around the bottom. But you can do whatever you want. The main idea is to just get a strip on here to create a buffer layer, a dampening layer effect on the forehand of the blade, and focusing on the sweet spot of whatever type of curve that you're using, whether it's a mid toe like this, or it's a toe curve like the P28, or or an old school pro Drury heel curve, whatever you got laying around. So this is what we're going to do with the first strip. Okay, and so because you were all smart people, you already knew that we were going to put that second strip of tape on the backhand side. You can see that I'm just doing exactly the same thing, heel to toe. You probably don't have to go with this much tape because really you're only using the heel to middle of the blade for stick handling and backhand shots, backhand passing, that sort of stuff. But do whatever you want. This is just a habit of mine, just to kind of go with the same size strips on the forehand and the backhand. And once you're done, go ahead and tape your blade like you normally would, and that's it. What I think you'll notice is that no matter what stick that you're using right now, I don't think you're going to lose anything that you like about the stick. So for instance, if you like the power that your stick has, if you like the quick release that your stick has, you're not going to lose any of that. What I think that you're going to notice is that maybe pucks stick to your blade a little bit better, maybe you have a little bit better puck feel, and that should work okay for you. Now, I've tested this out on the AS4 Pro Super Tax and a Trigger 7 Pro, and it kind of made the blades feel almost similar to like a Nexus Geo a little bit, because that's a pretty damp blade. I even find it to be more damp than a Nexus Sync. But to me, it was like only a beneficial enhancement to the blade that doesn't really cost anything, really, aside from obviously tape. As I mentioned earlier in the video, this helped me a lot because for my 3 of my 4 years in college, I used wood sticks, and then I transitioned to a composite stick, a blue CCM Vector or something like that. And I had a little trouble with my passing game once we made the switch, where pucks were hitting my blade on hard passes and they were kind of trampolining off, and I was having some control issues that I had to adjust to. On the flip side of that, I could shoot the puck a lot harder than any wood stick, but this kind of helped me ease that transition. And because I know that a lot of viewers of my channel happen to be probably from that age bracket that grew up using wood sticks and things like that, that this is something that helped me. And you might be interested in it just to try it on your own existing stick, so you don't have to spend any extra money. So anyways, you guys give this a rip, see what you think about it. I'd be curious to hear what you have to say in the comment section if you try it. Okay, number 2. Now we're going to talk about different ways you can wear your shin pads and your hockey socks. So here is the way I wear them, which is shin pads over the top of the tongue. And of course, the other way that people wear them is the shin pad behind the tongue. Okay, so there's no real wrong way to wear this. This is all personal preference, but B-U-T-T or B-U-T, ladies' choice on that one. There are feel differences when you're skating that you should be aware of. Also, as a side note, if you'll take a look at the gap in between the top of my boot and the bottom of the shin pad, this is about where you want that gap. You don't want that shin pad touching the top of your boot if you can help it, because it will cause interferences with your range of motion when you're trying to bend your knees over your toes when you're skating. So keep that in mind. If your shin pads are touching the top of your boot, probably means that your shin pads are currently too long. So let's talk about the benefits of wearing your shin pads over the top of your tongue. So what people don't realize is what I'm finding out, and at least it seems they don't realize, is that when you put your shin pads over the top of your tongues and then you put your and you have your socks on, and then you tape everything up with your sock tape. The bottom part of that shin pad is holding the top of your tongue kind of stable, which means that you're actually getting more stability out of your skates, and that can limit mobility, but it does kind of add a little bit more of that stability especially from a lateral standpoint, the side to side motion, because the shin pad is gripping the tongue and the tongue is attached to your boot, in theory, unless your skates are blown out, it should keep your skate from having too much lateral side to side play. And, that can be a really good thing that people want when they're skating. I know that I benefit personally from skates that have minimal amount of side to side lateral movement. But there are that at the same kind of token here, it does restrict a little bit of movement, which is why people might suggest that you try using the shin pad under the tongue method. So when we go with the under the tongue method for your shin pads, yes, we are getting more mobility all around. However, you do kind of need to have the ability, the technique to get the most out of that. I find that the majority of the adult rec players that are wearing their shin pads like this, it's just kind of a habit. They're not wearing it specifically because it benefits them or it's a disadvantage in some way. They're just kind of doing it because that's just kind of what they know, and that's fine. So just be aware of that. If you're going to wear your shin pads like this, you're going to get that additional mobility, but you are really going to lose some stability all around when you do it this way. So it's going to require that your skates fit better. It's going to require that you're probably a little bit better of a skater. You might find that you wear out tongues. There might be certain tongues that are not great. Like if you're a Bauer Hyperlight or Hyperlight 2 user, the tongue may not like this. It may get damaged if you try to use it. The other thing to note is if you kind of take a peek at the bottom of the shin pad, it's now kind of jamming at the top of the tongue, kind of where the top of the boot is. And this is because I wear a 15-inch shin pad in retail. I would need to drop down to a 14-inch shin pad in order to make this setup fit properly for me. So you need to actually go with a shorter shin pad to try this method out. And so if you're kind of having any binding issues or anything like that, that could be the reason for it. If you really want to go shin pad under the tongue for yourself, and your shin pads are too long, then you might consider selling your shin pads and trying to find another pair that are shorter so you don't have these interference issues, which this will be the worst of all scenarios, in my opinion. So that's your basic, to kind of wrap it up there. If you wear your tongues over the shin pads, you're going to get more lateral stability, maybe at the cost of a little bit of mobility. And then shin pad under the tongue, you're going to get way more mobility, less stability, and it's going to require that your shin pads fit properly, probably go shorter, skates got to fit, all that good stuff. So there's some information about that. Now let's get into how the hockey socks can impact the feel of stability and mobility. Okay, so now you know what's going to give you more mobility but less stability, and what's going to give you more stability but less mobility. We're going to tag on with the socks and how those impact things, and we're going to go with least stable or most mobile through the most stable and least mobile. And there's going to be 3 images that I'm going to share with you. So this first one is just how you're going to have to wear your socks if you're the type of player who wants to wear their shin pads under their tongue. So nothing too crazy here, but this is going to be your most mobile, most agile, least amount of stability. Okay, and this next one reflects the kind of a balance between mobility and stability. We have the shin pad over the tongue, and we can see that the tendon guard is exposed. And this is the one that I prefer the most, and I feel like the majority of players in general of all age brackets kind of tend to like this one. I'm not sure if there's a specific reason for it, but this is a very popular one as far as I can tell. And the last one reflects the most stability and least amount of agility. We have the shin pad going over the tongue, and we have the sock going over the tendon guard. Now, this is a bit of an old school look. I think a lot of you who are a bit older, like me, like when you used to wear the knit socks back in the day, this is how we used to wear them. But ever since they went to the mesh socks and they're a lot tighter, wasn't so much, kind of think it fell out of popularity and favoritism, that kind of stuff. But if you do this, just know that you will get that additional stability out of your skates, especially, but it will kind of restrict you on your knee bends and things like that. But if you're somebody that does need a little bit of an extra, want more stability, this is about as good as it gets. So it's something to consider. My thoughts on this whole thing is that you should try, if you've never played around with any of these setups with the shin pads and the socks, give them a try. You're like, next time you go to a stick and puck or you play a pickup game, something like that, and see if you notice a difference. I have, again, some people care about it, some people don't. What I've been finding is that most people can tell a difference. The ones that try to go from shin pads over the tongue to trying it behind the tongue, they usually don't like it, and it's usually a direct result of their shin pads being too long. So that's just kind of one to keep in the back of your mind if you're going to give it a try. But again, try it, see how you like it, and then maybe it'll help improve your skating game a little bit. Okay, number 3, lacing patterns for skates. I think maybe I mentioned at the beginning of the video I had 2 lacing patterns. I'm actually going to show you 3. I misspoke. Whoops. So lacing patterns are not something that gets a lot of attention, but they do impact how your skates fit based upon what you do. And I'm going to go over these as best I can. Again, they're not like earth-shattering changes, but a lot of times they can be the difference between lace bite or making your skates fit and maybe not fitting. So I'll kind of explain them now. So this first one that we're looking at is just an example of lacing the skates from the inside of the eyelet to the outside. This is probably the most common. Like if you buy a pair of skates from the store, they're probably set up this way. And what this is doing, this is like honestly probably the easiest lacing method to do. Everybody knows this one. But what happens when you're pulling this one tight is that the pressure is going directly down on top of the tongue, and that's pressing down on the top of your foot. So the people that have issues with this lacing method are people that have had lace bite issues in the past. Maybe they have high instep, high arches. Those types of folks, this is probably not an advised method to lace your skates up. But it's easy, it's common, and one other note too is that from a standpoint of being able to bend the knee over your toes when you're skating, get a good knee bend. Granted, a lot of that has to do with the boot, the profile of the steel, how good of a skater you are. But this method, going from the inside of the eyelet to the out, can actually restrict your knee bend just a little bit. And so I'll show you another option for that. But this is kind of the most common one, and I wanted to start with it. And I'm sure you could have guessed that we were going to go outside in regarding the next lacing pattern. So this one's kind of an interesting one. This is where things start to change regarding the fit and the feel of the boot. So this can be a little bit of a pain, because it's complete opposite of how you pull on the laces to tighten the boot. But what this does is, this is actually, when you tighten these up, it doesn't pull the tongue close to your foot. It actually pulls the eyelets out and wraps them around your foot. So what this does is this will provide a little bit more room on the top of your foot all the way up to the top. and it'll also give you a little bit more of a knee bend on your skates. Now, there's a number of different ways you can do this, but you can go and just do outside in lacing all the way up from the first eyelet all the way to the top of the boot, or you can do what I do, which is lace the skates inside eyelet out all the way up until we get to this top eyelet here that we're looking at, and then we'll do outside in. So what does that do? So what that does is it makes it not a hassle to lace up your skates, except for that top eyelet. When you go outside in, it allows you to have that good knee bend that you're looking for on the skates. And so, and also anybody who gets pressure at the top of their boots, it does help alleviate a little bit of that too. If you're going to lace it from the outside in, when you pull it tight, again, it pulls the eyelids out and then wraps around your foot. So that's a little bit of a difference there. So again, this one is better going from outside in. This one's going to be better for people who have those higher insteps, higher arches, have had issues with lace bite. And, you know, like I was saying, I'm only doing the top of the eyelet of my particular skates, but you could do it to the top 3 eyelets, anything that you wanted to do with this one. And then I'm going to show you one last one here that's kind of new to me and a very interesting one. Okay, so this one is basically just skipping the eyelets that are second from the top. And from the front of the boot, it basically forms an X. And I know it's a little bit hard to see here, but, you know, just trust me, it's kind of an X shape. So what is this weirdo pattern supposed to do? Well, so what this one does is it enables a good solid knee bend, but it actually increases the stability, the lateral stability side to side. So it somehow magically, through some sort of science, I don't know, I don't understand it, but it basically enables you to get a really good deep knee bend while maintaining lateral stability. Simple as that. Now, I don't personally use this one. I still like the other method that I've been doing, but I've started to notice that a lot of people have been using this, and have a buddy who has also started using this due to him having some lateral stability issues in his last pair of skates, and it's pretty much solved that issue for him. So, you know, give it, again, with all this stuff, try it out, see if you like it. If you don't, you know, go back to doing whatever you were doing before, and, you know, no harm, no foul. But anyways, those are the 3 different lacing patterns, and I'm sure there's plenty more out there. These are the 3 that I've tried. These are the 3 that I could tell a difference on when I'm skating and when how my boots fit. So I just wanted to share those with you. Number 4, insoles, compression socks, and how they interact as a system. Okay, this has to be one of the most boring hockey topics of all, is insoles. But the only reason I bring them up is because I didn't realize personally how important they were. And so I figured I'd show 3 insoles here, one of which is like the most common one, obviously the super feet. But they do represent 3 different basically arch heights and things like that. So the ones on the left are by Elite Hockey. The ones in the middle are the CCM. They used to be in a contract with Curex Soles, and this is prior to the Ortho Move days. And then they have the Super Feet on the right, which are the kind of the highest arch, you know, the staple of the hockey world these days. And I'll give you a look at these from the other side. So what we can see, starting from the left side, is those Elite Hockey soles have a very interesting design. But no arch support, no heel support, nothing. Then in the middle, we see the CCM insoles that have, looks to be pretty good. Everything from like rivet protection on the forefoot, arch support, heel support, that kind of stuff. And then we see the super feet that has great arch support, great heel support. Nothing really there for, nothing notable for the forefoot padding or support. And then if it looks kind of weird on the plastic, it's because I modified it a little bit. But those are kind of the representative of the bottoms of the insoles. I will say the Elite Hockey on the far left that has that weird ridges and valleys and stuff, easily the most comfortable forefoot section of any insole that I've ever worn, ever, hands down. They're like 15 bucks on like Amazon too. So obviously terrible arch support and heels, but just something to think about. When we look at the thickness, we can see that the most cushiony one is the CCM on the far left side. It has memory foam sandwiched in between it, and then the Superfeet, the yellow one, is the most garbage one on the forefoot. So totally unnoticeable, nothing amazing about it. And then of course the Elite Hockey on the far right side, that, believe it or not, has better forefoot comfort than even the CCM with memory foam for some reason. And in this shot, I tried to get you kind of an idea of what the arch height and support looks like. So on the far left, we see the Elite Hockey, middle is the CCM, and right is obviously the Superfeet. So we can see how much arch the Superfeet has in comparison to the other two, which is always a bit interesting to me because the Superfeet is the most common one as far as I can tell. And they seem to give those to everybody, whether or not you have a high arch, regular arch, or flat feet. So this is where we start to come back to the discussion of why insoles are so important. Okay, so let's say you go to the shop and you buy a new pair of skates, or you have a pair of skates that you want to get new insoles for. So a lot of times what people will do is they will go to the store, they will buy a pair of skates, they will heat mold them with the insole that comes with the skates, and then maybe at some point in the future they'll come back and buy a set of Superfeet and toss them in there, and all of a sudden the skates don't feel quite right. So a couple things just to know about this is that you should always, always, always bake your skates with the insoles that you're planning on using. And if you ever switch out your insoles, bake your skates again to make sure that they are, everything is correct in there. And what in these insole arch heights and these thicknesses, how these impact your fit is that the more arch, the more support that you have, the less volume you're going to have in the skate. The more volume that those insoles are going to take up in your boot. So if you're one of those folks that has, like really high arches, high instep, just like a high volume foot like me, something like the Superfeet are going to be the worst possible choice because it's really going to take up too much room in your boot. Which is why I use the Elite Hockey insoles on the far left. However, if you're somebody that needs to have some volume taken up, some negative space taken up, Superfeet would be great. However, you also then have to pay attention to the arch height of the Superfeet being so high and making sure that your foot actually is comfortable in them. And the other thing is that the Superfeet, they do a good job of adding a little bit of a forward pitch feel to your boot because they have that big high plastic foundation that is really stable. When it comes to performance, pretty much the Superfeet have got that market cornered. They're great performance if they fit you properly and your foot fits in the boot properly. I wish I could wear them, to be honest with you. They do perform awesome. You want to avoid the cushiony stuff because that is going to remove your performance for sure. The CCM happens to be the best balance that we're looking at here. The CCM Ortho moves, not so great in my opinion. Just go with the Superfeet. So anyways, I think that's probably all that needs to be said. Just remember that the insoles impact your boot's volume and that you need to heat mold your skates with whatever insoles you plan on using. So we'll just leave it at that. And possibly even more boring than insoles are socks. So bear with me on this one, though. Just like your insoles, the different thicknesses of socks actually makes a difference. So on the far left, we have your generic sock. That's just your basic athletic sock. Then we have this Selly brand, kind of a hockey sock, kind of an athletic sock. Your, the epitome of hockey socks, the Bauer compression sock. And then on the right, a thinny, which is, as it sounds, it's almost like nylons. So based upon however much volume you have in your boot, you're going to want to also use the proper type of sock for yourself. I think that if you just go with Bauer socks, you're probably fine all the way around. If you need to take up a little bit of negative volume, those Selly socks, Selly brand socks are super cheap at like $10. Those things are great if you need to take up some space. If you don't have hardly any space in your boot, or you just want a really tight-fitting boot, go with the thinnies on the far right. Those will handle everything you need. And again, just like the insoles, whatever sock you choose, whatever insole you choose, make sure you bake everything, at the same time. Same using the sock you're going to use, the insole you're going to use, and then you'll be good to go. Regarding the black athletic sock, I know people are going to use them; they don't care. I'd recommend it. They're a little spongy, take up too much room, and they're not great. So. That's all I'm going to say about socks. Thanks for bearing with me on this, by the way. Okay, you've almost made it to the end. We're here to talk about number 5, which is adjusting the cage for better visibility. This is one that I don't ever see talked about, but I've seen some people do, and I don't know if it's on purpose or an accident. I guess it's irrelevant. But obviously we want to use face cages for safety reasons. Lots of good reasons why we want to use that, to prevent accidents and just general gong show activities. But right now what we're looking at is the way a traditional face cage is attached to your helmet when you buy one is a combo deal from the store. A lot of times even when you buy a cage and they just ship you the cage, this is the way it's kind of set up. And I'm focusing right now on the little metal brackets that are screwed to the helmet. So what we're trying to solve for is this specific area of the cage. So these two bars, most likely the lower one, are notorious for being directly in your line of sight for a lot of different cages out there, whether it's Bauer or CCM. They are better now, but this is still an issue with some cages depending on the size cage you have, depending on the helmet that you're wearing, shape of your face, all that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do today is I'll show you all you have to do. It's one of those all you have to do type moments. So just flip the brackets upside down, and what that'll do is it will slightly raise your cage a little bit, and it should get that bar out of your line of sight, or at least make it a little bit better. One of the things that you will have to take into consideration, though, is the J-clips on the side of your helmet. Those may need to be adjusted to account for the different height of the cage. The other thing that you're going to have to keep an eye on is the cup, the chin cup, and the cage. We obviously want that protecting your chin and not protecting your mouth, and having your chin exposed at the bottom of the cage. So this may mean that the cage needs to be increased in size, going from like a medium, like in the picture here, to a large, something like that. But that is the way you solve that. That would be one where you would have to spend some money, though, if that was the issue, or just kind of deal with the bar in your eye. But that's something you want to make sure. You obviously, if you're going to wear a cage, you want your chin protected. So that's about it. Okay, well, if you made it this long in the video, I am impressed. A lot of the internet has the attention span of a fruit fly, so good on ya. But anyways, that's going to do it for the day, and I appreciate you guys checking things out. I hope one or multiple of these things was of interest to you, and you give it a try. I'd love to hear any feedback you have in the comment section, and until next time, peace out.